My brother Addison,
What's up, Alex?
welcome to another episode of the
Three
Pillars
pillars.
of.
Man.
I'm Alex James,
Addison Corbin.
and today's title for today's episode is called Exposed or Just Honest, the hidden line between transparency and vulnerability. And the quote to open today's podcast is: Transparency reveals the facts, vulnerability reveals the truth. Transparency talks about the wound, vulnerability lets someone touch it. And so, the first question I have for you, my brother Addison, is why do so many men believe that being vulnerable, oh, I'm sorry, why do so many men believe they're being vulnerable when they're really just being transparent?
Well, you're preaching to the choir, right?
Yeah.
Um, when you brought this up today,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn, that's me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I had to look in the mirror myself.
And so with that, I mean, it kind of plays into there's so many times that I think that I'm being vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
By telling somebody what's going on or whatever. And I'm not.
Yeah.
Right? And I haven't ever thought about it like this. I've never thought about it in the format you brought it up, where
Mm-hmm.
being transparent is not necessarily being vulnerable,
Right.
um, which is news to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Same.
Um, so the reason why I think one, ignorance is
Mm-hmm.
probably one of those reasons. Two, I was never told anything different,
Right.
and three, because it feels
Mm-hmm.
like you're being vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
We kind of mentioned that too, but what about you? What are your thoughts on that?
I think one, it is ignorance on our part where because I'm describing what's going on with me or what's going on with my life, that I am being vulnerable.
Mhm.
So there is an ignorance part of that. Like you said, a lot of it can be learned behavior. So, we might see someone older in our family, whether it's our dad or uncle or grandpa, and we see how they interact with either their social group or other men in our family, and they're just talking about what's just going on.
Yeah.
So I think it can be ignorance. I think it can be learned behavior, and I think it can be strategic as well. Because I think one thing as brothers, I think we do a good job at it, but just from what I've seen, just with men in general, one, we don't create the space where we can let men just pour out their emotions, pour out how they're truly feeling about something. So we don't necessarily create the space. And because we don't create that space, right, we strategically do not expose ourselves purposely, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for example, you might ask me, "Hey, Alex, what's going on, man? How was your day?" Oh, it was fine, man. Work's just been busy. I've been tired lately because I've been traveling a lot for work. Uh, you know, at home, it's just been chaos at home, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you everything that's going on. I'm being transparent. I'm being honest. But if you notice, I didn't tell you like how all of that is making me feel.
Hmm.
And so if I don't feel like I'm in a safe space to be able to just say, man, I'm tired, man. I just been not been getting a lot of sleep lately. I just been depressed because da 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 da. If I don't feel like I'm in that safe space, then I'm going to absolutely lean on just telling. I'll tell you what's going on,
Yeah.
just to give you the
Just to keep the conversation
just to
moving.
keep the conversation moving and to give you the to give you the I'm trying to find a word, but to give you the thought of okay, he's telling me what's going on,
Mm.
so I guess he is being vulnerable,
Yeah.
but it's not right. Like an example, like I like to think of, right? Let's say you're in the office and you see a window, right? You're looking outside the window, it's raining, and you look outside the window, you're like, wow, man, it's really raining hard. That's transparency.
Yeah.
All you're doing is just stating a fact. You're not really telling. I'm not saying anything more or anything less, right? I'm just stating a fact. Now, if I say, damn, it's raining, man, I don't like when it's raining. It makes me feel all gloomy. And then if I go out there, I'm gonna get wet, and I don't like being wet. Now I'm being vulnerable because not only am I being transparent and telling you like, hey, this is what's going on, but I'm also telling you, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and then this is how I can potentially solve the issue or solve the problem, or it can now invite you to be vulnerable. Like, yeah, man, I don't like the rain either, man. It makes me feel a certain type of way as well. And then now we can have a conversation, a real honest and a good foundation for a conversation as far as like just being able to help each other.
Yeah.
So I think those are the main things. It's us just being ignorant to it. Like a lot of us don't like even when I was kind of looking into it, I was like, wow, I never thought of transparency not being vulnerability. I thought they were kind of the same thing. But as I kind of did more of a deep dive, I was like, oh, they're not the same thing. So
Yeah.
ignorance. Two, um, learned behavior. We see our dads who, you might ask them how they're doing, like, oh, I'm doing good, just had a long day at work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just keep it pushing.
Just keep it pushing. So, and then the third one, we are strategic about because a lot of times, what have we been taught, right? If you're vulnerable, you're weak, you're exposed, and then that's when you can essentially be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So we don't want that.
Right.
So we want to be able to not only control the situation, but control the narrative as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give you ammunition, and then after I talk to you, you might talk to somebody else like, yeah, Alex, man, he's something wrong
He's
with
a
that thing. Yeah,
crybaby.
he a
Yeah.
crybaby. Yo, he's bitching and moaning, da da da. And
Yeah.
so I think that's the reason why we can confuse. It can be blurred lines between transparency and vulnerability. And that's not only for like us as brothers, right? Like we could take that with our spouse or with our family,
Yeah.
So a lot of us live a emotionally guarded life. Like we go through life being emotionally isolated. We never let people in. And the the wild thing about it is you hear a lot of people dying from stress. Why do you think that happens? They don't have a safe space where they can talk about what's going on or like how they truly feel about stuff. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, if you're not careful,
Is it is it a lack of a safe space, or is it just the the perception of not having a safe space?
I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, it definitely could be both.
I think I think we as men just don't naturally create that safe space.
Yeah, which because it you want to be a head honcho, you want to be good, like you want to be
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it. With being vulnerable, you also kind of feel like a burden
Yeah.
on somebody else, especially as a male, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the whole perception of a male is to be, I got this,
Mm-hmm.
and to carry that with you everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I'm guilty of all the things that we're speaking about, right? Because
Same here.
uh, for me, uh, I had a conversation today with my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Always a really good conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and he pointed out like I overgeneralize,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything that I do, right?
Everything you do. Yeah.
Um, and by overgeneralizing, it it protects everything on the internal, so that everything on the external is perceived good.
If I don't get specific about stuff, there's no opening for someone to go,
Mhm.
to enter.
Mhm.
So if I just keep like how I'm hearing it is, if I just keep everything just generalized surface level,
Yeah.
and I don't give them an inkling of like something's truly going on with me, then I won't get exposed, which means I won't get hurt,
Mhm.
and I'm still good.
And and kind of having this conversation, it's allowed me to recognize um, that with other people too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just I'm having live thought, right?
Yeah.
Um, so recognizing it in other people, but also recognizing it in myself to the point of, um, I do it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like you when you came in, right? I
Yeah.
just was like, I'm good, bro. I guess let me finish this up and then we'll wrap.
Yeah. It's just
Um,
naturally natural. I think it's just our instinct. Yeah.
and it is. Um, so I think that does kind of lend itself to uh, obviously past experiences, right? I'm naturally guarded, just the way that I was raised,
Mm-hmm.
and then life happens. You
Yep.
start, not really, trusting people in general,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get into a relationship like me right now, and I do this all the time to her,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I can count on uh, probably one hand, maybe three fingers of how many times that I've like broken down,
Yeah.
or been vulnerable with her,
Mm-hmm.
um, just because it's not something that I'm comfortable with, and I feel like not really a big deal.
Yeah. So I'm me and Vanessa, we're doing like premarital counseling,
Hmm.
and we got on the topic about so we was like reading this book, and the topic was, can't remember like the full topic, but the overall thing about it was just being like just telling like your thoughts, right? Just telling, like, Vanessa's good at telling me everything that she's thinking of, regardless of like if it's a big thing or like a little thing, as like, oh, I ate this new meal and it tasted really good, like just
Hmm.
stuff like that. And so my pastor, he had asked me, so Alex, why don't you, why are you not that open like Vanessa is with you? And I'm just like, well, if it doesn't affect if it affects the bottom line, and what I mean is if it affects me or affects her, or I think that it's going to affect both of us either in a negative or positive way, I will immediately tell it, like,
Hmm.
because it's going to ultimately could affect the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah.
But if it's just something just as like, oh yeah, when I get to work, I need to make sure I knock this out, this out, this out, like just a thought like that,
Hmm.
it doesn't really affect the bottom line,
Right.
right? This is my thought. Like, it doesn't, it affects me because I know I gotta get these things done, but if it doesn't affect both of us, then I'm normally just keep that to myself.
Right.
But I realized doing that, I'm building a habit of not telling her everything.
Right.
And how my pastor put it is like, how you gave that example of um the devil just needs a nail.
Yeah.
And so, to that example, when I'm not open and transparent or vulnerable with like my thoughts and how I'm feeling about my thoughts, right? Even though like I might not even be thinking about anything like crazy, like it's just something small like the example I gave you, the devil can kind of enter into her mind saying, see, he's not telling you
Hmm.
everything. Something's going on. You need to investigate.
Yeah.
So when he put it like that, I was like, okay, that that makes sense. But it's funny how like stuff like that can bleed into like conversations with your friends, with your brothers, conversations with your parents, conversations with other family members, conversations with your significant other. All of that, it all can blend in and bleed, kind of all bleed into different relationships without you even knowing.
Right.
So I think that's why it's good that I think one, you as a man, you have to figure out where your safe space is. Because no, you can't tell everybody everything, and you can't tell everybody how you truly feeling, because there is that risk that you could get exposed, and could that information could get used against you at another time. That is totally valid.
Yeah.
So it is our responsibility to find that safe space. But we have to go find it. We can't sit there and be like, I'm nah, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna talk to them. Or I'm not gonna talk to my parents, or I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like, we have to actively seek that safe space. And I think that's where us as men have that issue, because it's funny how, like, with women, right? Like, you can see, like I notice this, like, every time we like meet like a different couple or something,
Mhm.
or Vanessa meets another woman or whatever. They can just they
Immediately.
immediately don't even know the person, can immediately just talk about like what's going on, how they're feeling, da, 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 da. But then, like, you see like the men, well, let's say it's like a double date or whatever. The man's conversation is going to be very surface level, right?
Mhm. How's work?
How's work?
What
Oh,
you do for a
what do you do for a living?
living?
Oh, what sports team do you like? Oh, did you see that?
Hmm.
And then with women, they get, it's just so easy for them.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing we can learn from women is like, you know, be open, just be an open book.
Yeah.
Um, and don't worry about, because I look at it like this: if you live your life like an open book, ain't nothing you can say or do to me that's going to expose me or make me feel weak,
Right.
because I've already owned that, right?
Yeah.
Like, if something happened in my childhood and I'm open about it, and I'm open as in like, I'm telling you what happened, and I'm telling you how I felt about it, and I'm telling you what I'm doing to fix it and to deal with it. What can you do with that information that I haven't already
Provided.
provided or made peace with?
Mm.
And so I think that's one thing, to answer your question. It is both. That space has to be created, but then we also gotta have to be willing to. Once that space is created, we have to take that opportunity to share what's
Right.
going on.
That's a good point. Another thing that you kind of brought up, I mean, obviously that kind of that touches into like the mind and how that can kind of manifest and play out.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that you mentioned prior to the podcast was how it manifests in the body, or how we allow it to transition through the body, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I've been guilty of like, oh, I just work out, or I just need to go to jujitsu and I'll be good,
I mean,
right?
it's sweat. Yeah.
Hmm. I
Mm-hmm.
need I need to get something out. So for me, I do find that letting that aggression out through jujitsu, um, or whatever, and it's not malintent by any means, but it's just I get through it, and then I feel good, and then that's it,
Yeah.
right? And that could also be through whatever other vice, right? That you have, um, and so it's important to kind of dial in on what those are, and how that's how you're using that in that manner. So I guess for me, you mentioned that jujitsu, and I was like, damn, that's it. That's or the workout or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
The thing is, and one thing I had to realize is, those are just temporary reliefs.
yeah.
Like, when after a workout, or after jujitsu, like, afterwards you feel like, okay, whew, I'm good.
Hmm.
I can conquer the day now. But it doesn't solve. It's just a band-aid.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Because if something's truly going on, and I think what we do, right, we just stack those temporary reliefs,
Hmm.
and we think like, okay, I've solved my issue that I'm having,
Right.
whatever. So And so because we just stack those temporary reliefs and we in our minds make it a long relief, but in reality, it's like all you're doing is just taking the band-aid, putting it on you, ripping it off, putting another band-aid. That's all you're doing. You're just putting band-aids on. You're not really healing the wound or anything.
Yeah.
And but I also understand that there are wounds that or trauma that we have that it does take time to heal. And so sometimes we have to do those band-aid solutions. But because having a band-aid is a way of healing, right? Like when you get a scar or whatever, what's the first thing you do? Put some ointment on it, put a band-aid on it, and you
Yeah.
let it heal under the band-aid. Like that is a way of healing. But I think the thing is like you have to identify that you are hurt. You have to make peace with like, yeah, this happened. Um, yeah, I'm working out, I'm doing jujitsu, I'm running, I'm doing these things to give me temporary relief, but I think I need to go to therapy or seek counseling from a mentor or whoever that you have that safe space with.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we do as men, especially us. We just put the workout band-aid, jujitsu band-aid, go for a run, go for a ruck, you know,
Just call
yeah,
it a day.
and call it a day. And then what happens and what we talked about from the body response, right? Sometimes like it can lead to a panic attack. It can lead to that chest tightness that you get. And sometimes and I've heard stories where it gets so bad to the point where you have to go to the emergency room. And then it's funny because the doctor might look at you and say, he's like, dude, you're just stressed as hell.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy how they do say one of the silent killers with men is stress.
Yeah.
And because we just do those temporary band-aids, all we're doing is just hurting our bodies further and further.
Right.
So yeah, it's that's how like if you don't really identify and really master your emotion from that trauma or from that bad situation, it can lead to you getting sick or to the emergency room or it's killing people.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just gotta. I think we just have to do better, just being an open book and not being afraid of consequences of being an open book.
Yeah. Which, you can, there's many different ways that kind of flows, right? Kind of going back a little bit, but, you know, we've all had that one scenario where you say something to somebody, or, you tell your girl something, and then 2 months later, she throws that back in your face, right?
Fastball.
And you're like, I didn't say that for you
Right.
to be able to use that against me. I said that because I was, being vulnerable or whatever. And I think if that happens in your relationship, there's that shuts down that space that you talked
Mm-hmm.
about.
Mm-hmm.
And that just kind of popped into my head as you were talking there. But that's one of those things where, you know, every day we go through whatever you go through in that day,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you know it makes it hard to be able to have that conversation with that significant other, or it
Mm-hmm.
makes it hard to have that conversation with your boys, or whatever, just because you don't want that either a used against you, or laying it into like the transparency in the body, like you're feeling stressed,
Yeah.
you're going through whatever you're going through, or you're having anxiety, or whatever that may be for that person.
Mm-hmm.
um and then you don't have a format to be able to explain that, or you do explain it and it's not taken in the direction that you explain it, right?
Why do you feel as? Because I was just on social media yesterday and I came across a TikTok reel that there was a guy that explained like why brotherhood is dead, and he was one of the points that he was making was like we don't create that safe space for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Even and it's funny how like you could like for us, right? We've known each other since kindergarten. So we've known each other for like 20 plus years. And we still struggle sometimes with
Mm-hmm.
I think we've gotten better for sure, but I
Mm-hmm.
think we sometimes create we don't it's not a natural thing to create that safe space. Why do you think it's so hard for us as men to for friends and people that we call brothers, why can't we create that safe space for each other?
Well, one, you have to be able to do it with yourself.
Mm.
You have to have that space for yourself, because if you're not able to recognize it in yourself, how are you supposed to be able to have that conversation with somebody else, right? At least authentically. And then that also, you know, if it's taken the wrong way, like accountability. If you hold somebody accountable and they take it the wrong way, then it makes it a lot harder to have that conversation again.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, man.
Yeah.
You got to be able to recognize it in yourself. You got to be able to have that space for your mental clarity and processing your thoughts and the review of yourself.
Yeah.
Um, to be able to have that with somebody else.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where it first starts.
Yeah. That's the foundation. That's exactly where it starts. Also, you don't want to be that guy in the friend group, right? You don't want to be the this man, here he go with this BS
Mm-hmm.
feelings
He's
and all that.
bitching.
He's been right. Like shut up and go do some work or something.
Right.
You don't want to be you don't want to be perceived as that. Cause then, and it happens where the friend that's like that and is perceived as weak, what normally happens to that person in the friend group?
I mean, he's getting made fun of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
made fun of, the butt of the jokes and all that. But what we don't know is we're just driving him away.
Yeah.
And we're actually instead of him building that wall within himself, we're building that wall for him, that emotional wall for him.
Yeah.
Like all we're doing is like we're just handing him the bricks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You to build that emotional wall.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it's perception. Um and then yeah, I think you nailed it, man. We don't have those conversations with ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like what we talked about earlier. It's like with emotions, right? How can you master your emotions when you don't face them
Yeah. Or feel them.
or feel them? There. That's just like me saying I want to be a black belt in jujitsu, and it's like how can you do that when you don't consistently train? Well, I want to get stronger in bench press. Well, how can you do that when you don't consistently train and you don't expose yourself to heavy weight? Even if you fail, but now your body has been exposed to that heavy weight, and it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy how your body just adjusts. Like now you 225. Like man, I can only do one. You do that a couple times. Next thing you know, you might do three.
Yep.
So it's like how can we sit there and think I'm the yeah you can't. It's just crazy how we can think sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like bro, I think expectations as well. It's like, well, if he's not doing it, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And that's fair. That's fair. But at the same time, one of us got to take that leap.
Yeah. Somebody's got to be the barrier, or
Mm-hmm.
release the barrier between the two.
Yeah. And I just, I think also, damn, I just lost it right. But you go ahead and say what you were going to
Okay.
say, but it'll come back to me.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of where it breaks down to is you got to be able to have that conversation with yourself. You got to be
Mm-hmm.
able to look and say, am I able to actually feel my emotions? Am I able to break down my emotions, which, I have a very hard time with
Mm-hmm.
all the time, you know? And I think, you know, the, the, the signal of being able to like, okay, recognize like I am stressed. I am going through a higher emotional state right now. whether it be in an argument or whatever else, and then be able to facilitate that in yourself and recognize it and be able to have that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, for me, I notice, like, for instance, in a disagreement or argument, I shut down.
Oh
I
yeah.
have like a lack of almost a lack of emotion,
Mm-hmm.
um, so far of shutting down, and that lends itself to not having a productive conversation.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say, I think in today's world, we have romanticized being the Lone Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is, sometimes you go on social media, you might see like a post that's like, don't trust no one, uh,
Build it.
build it,
Mm-hmm.
build it within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how like you can watch that one post and then your whole algorithm is based off, the next 5 videos is based on that. So I think we romanticize it, and because you see people who have either like made a post on social media or even just from people that you've met in person, and they've kind of, it's kind of like this, it's like a toxic ego thing where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh nah, when I was at my lowest, I got myself out of that, and
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm stronger than ever. It's like, yeah, that's commendable. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
I'm not shitting on it, but it's like, could you have made that a little easier on yourself?
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think that's also another thing. There's too many egos in a brotherhood sometimes. Everybody wants to be a chief, but there's no Indians.
Mm-hmm.
There's like too many chefs in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta have a sous chef. Chief, you gotta have Indians.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying there's gotta be like a leader in the group, but I think each person plays a certain role. You might have that one brother in the group that's good at like, good at the, hey, we all need to toughen up, like
Yeah.
the resilient one, the one that's holds everybody accountable. But kind of what we talked about yesterday, like there's different strengths. But he might not be strong in the emotional department. Then you might have another brother he might not be the biggest, he might not be the strongest, but he has more of a internal strength where he can be introspective, and he can give you insight on like, hey, maybe you're feeling like this because
Blank.
blank. And so, but I feel like if you have too much of the same personality in one group, in one brotherhood, that can be very bad.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another thing too, where it's like, hey, in order for this to work, somebody got to check their ego
Yeah.
and be okay with the consequences. Like, if you're the one that checks your ego and people are not receptive to it, you might have to ask that hard question. It's like, maybe this ain't
This is for
the
the crew.
yeah, maybe this ain't the crew.
Yeah.
And this kind of just, I'm just kind of building here. And because of that thought, a lot of us might be afraid to, because I think along the journey of life, there are times where you're gonna have to be the Lone Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to pick yourself up, get yourself situated, go through what you need to go through, whatever, by yourself.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be a long term thing. It shouldn't be a long term solution. So there are times in life where on the short term you gotta do that, but also you need to figure out, it ain't gotta be a big group of men or a big group of women or a big group of friends. Just maybe one or two people.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. I think it's a fear of, okay, I see this group, I'm benefiting from this group. Whether it's, you know, we all, I don't know, I'm benefiting somehow from these so-called friends. So I'm afraid to leave that. And I'm
Yeah.
afraid to walk on my own. And I think sometimes we think walking on our own is forever, and it's like, it's not a forever thing.
Which I mean, if you do it long enough, you almost forget
Mm-hmm.
how to not do that.
Yeah. And then what happens is, man, your heart builds a callus, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, but you know, when you lift weights, you get a callus, and what happens with callus? It just hardens,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think if you're not careful, if you don't find that safe space where you can be vulnerable, you don't have a committee of men, I like to say, then you run the risk of, I've been a lone ranger so long, I don't know what it looks like to be in a group of people that like I don't even know what a safe space is
Yeah.
because I never one I never experienced it, or two, I'm not going to put myself in that vulnerable state.
Yeah.
But I think one thing, another thing too, transparency is a start. I will say that it is a start. It's a start because even sometimes we struggle as men to be transparent.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's a big place,
Mm-hmm.
but it's to challenge yourself to be able to go that next step and correlate transparency with or not to go that extra step and be able to be transparent but also vulnerable in what you're going through,
Yeah.
or how something makes you feel, or just being able to test it, right? Test it with certain people, test it with this, test it with that. um, Try it in different aspects, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously you're gonna have to do your own research on how you can do that for you, but
Mm-hmm.
it kind of lends itself to the next thing of spiritually, right? You talked about Christianity and how that whole process of being religious is um, being humble,
Mm-hmm.
being transparent, being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And there was a few other things that you mentioned on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say one thing. Um, I say for me, I'm more about the relationship with God,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily like religion, because I feel like it's, and this is just me personally, right or wrong, but I just feel like sometimes with religion it can be just a check in the box, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, hey, I went to church today.
Right.
But it's like if you don't have that relationship with God, then it's like that defeats the
You're just
purpose,
showing up.
right? So I just want to say, when you have that relationship with God, where you're setting time to, talk to Him, pray, reading your Bible, reading the Word, um, it does force you to be more humble and have humility with it. I think one, like what we talked about before the podcast, is like they said vulnerability is a spiritual discipline, because what does that force you to do? Force you to surrender, kill your ego, and I'm not saying admit defeat, but just admitting that, hey, I've tried it. I've tried to get through this on my own, and I can't shake it. So I'm coming to you, God, to help me to just navigate, this situation that I'm in. And so that's why, just from, like you said, from the spirit aspect, once we understand that vulnerability is a spiritual discipline and you have to exercise it, right? Um, you'll, I think once you look at vulnerability like that, I think it'll start to kind of flip your mindset on what, okay, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's actually a strength.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can be open and be honest with my committee of men and with God and with everybody else, that just makes me stronger, because I just gave you everything about me. There's nothing is secret. So what can you do to me?
Yeah.
And one of the other things we talked about is stoicism, right? And we talked about earlier, where it's like one of the things about stoicism is like it's not about being emotionless. It's just about mastering your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
not repressing them, but mastering them. And so, like we said earlier, how can you master your emotions when you don't face them?
Right.
And so when you don't face them and you just kind of put them in a lockbox somewhere and throw it away, you're not mastering it. And I think that's another thing we confuse with. Where it's like if I don't show emotion, I mastered emotion. I don't show it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you didn't master it, man. You just locked it away and put it somewhere.
Right.
But eventually, it's gonna be like a 360. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be next week, it might not be next month. It might be a couple years where that emotion that you locked away is going to somehow something's going to happen that's going to trigger it, and it's not going to be you taking the key and unlocking that emotion. That emotion is just going to pop out the damn box,
Right.
and you're going to be like, "Why the hell did I just crash out?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like, hey, do you remember that last situation you was in, and you just kind of like repressed it and just you just said, "Hey, I just need to go work out, go
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu. I'm good." So that's why it is a discipline, man. You gotta exercise it. It's just like being disciplined at the gym. The only way you get stronger, the only way you improve your cardio, the only way you, the only way you, whatever it is, whatever your goal is out of the gym, the only way you get better at that is what? I have to exercise some discipline. I gotta be consistent. I gotta, whether it's four, three times a week, 4 times a week, every day. Hell, I don't know. You have to figure that
Yeah.
out. But you got to exercise. You got to be disciplined. It's it's like it's like the basis of our podcast, right?
Yeah.
And it's like what Jocko Willink said, right? Discipline is freedom. It is freedom.
Yeah.
And so when we think about vulnerability as a spiritual discipline, if I can be vulnerable, I'm really setting myself free.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
Because you're allowing yourself to, um, for the easiest term here, if you were disciplined with time,
mm-hmm,
then you have more time, right? If you're disciplined with work, you will be able to afford more things, right? Which creates the freedom.
mm-hmm,
And if you are disciplined on being vulnerable, from what I'm hearing, is creating more space to be able to be vulnerable or to be able to, um, not crash out, like you're saying.
yeah, it just gives you an opportunity to face your emotions more frequently. And the more frequent you are with facing your emotions, you know how to deal with them. So, I've been in this situation before. Normally, I would get angry, but because I've dealt with it and I've faced it and I've asked those important questions on like why did this make me angry, and I've finally came to a solution about it. Now the next situation that triggers my anger, I know how to navigate it. That's why you see a lot of people like you go on the news and you'll see like, well, such and such got killed today over a dispute at a stoplight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the hell? and and then as they give you more details, it was just like
That was avoidable.
that
Mm-hmm.
not to laugh, but it's like yeah. Like the news reporter would be like, yeah, uh, so and so, a witness said this car had pulled in front of them, and they he got rear end, and then they both got out the car and they started arguing. Then one pulled out a gun and shot the other one. And then that's how lives
Yeah.
get cut short because of just interactions like that and people not, you hear road rage. People not that's just not you mastering your emotion when somebody cuts you off or somebody does like a brake check. Like that road rage is you not mastering your anger.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
Yeah.
And so to wrap this all up, we touched on how transparency does not equal vulnerability from a mind, body, and spirit. But my brother Assen, to close us out, just summarize how can we apply what we talked about to the mind, body, and spirit?
I think just recognizing the fact that transparency is not vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
is the only
And that's the only thing.
yeah. I think that solves your problem.
Yep.
Because if you can recognize that, then you can then open up that door.
Right.
That,
I look at it like a domino effect. Like once you recognize that in your mind, your mindset shifts, right?
mm-hmm.
Now that I understand that transparency is not vulnerability, what can I do now to kind of continue to help me shape that mindset?
Right.
So that's where the body comes in. That's more of like, the action of it, take that risk to, put yourself out there emotionally,
Right.
because at the end of the day, we're all going through something. We are all going through something. And so if someone sees me being open about my emotion, you just gave them the safe space to be open. And so now y'all both can, y'all really both can maybe help each other out. Like, oh yeah, bro, I've been through that, man. This is what I did. And then, oh yeah, bro, I've been through that also. This is what I did to kind of help me get out of that. So for the body wise, is just putting that into action. And then also, if you are experiencing like chest pains and all that stuff, um, definitely get that checked out sooner than later. Don't let that build up, and be aware of that and get that checked out, whether you go to a doctor or whatever. Because if you can get that diagnosed early, you might have just saved your life.
Yeah.
So, and then spirit wise, like we said, vulnerability is a spiritual discipline. The only way you're going to get better at being vulnerable is being vulnerable. And so that's going to require you to kill your ego. It's going to require you to be humble, be honest, be open, take that risk, um, and understand that we're not meant in life to be on an emotional island. And this took me a while to learn. You don't need a big community, but you need a community.
Yeah.
And so I encourage all men that struggling in this arena, like me and Ashton do, man. Just find you one or two guys. You don't need you don't need and go touch grass, man. Don't look. I know there's like social media communities and stuff like that. And I think that's great. I think it's great. But if y'all are in those online communities like mental health communities, and all that, organize something where y'all all can meet each other and be able to talk in person, because I do think there is power in face-to-face interaction.
For sure.
But um, but yeah, that's how what we talked about applies to the mind, body, and spirit. So that concludes our episode of the 3
Pillars
of
man.
Like, share, subscribe, tell your mamas, your mamas, mamas, your mamas, mamas, mamas about us. We are just two brothers having an authentic conversation about how we can continue to improve our mind, body, and spirit. Peace.